everyone. Thank you for joining us here on our first show. We have a lot of awesome co-hosts with us today, and we'll talk about who we are, what we're doing here, who is involved in the project, and kind of what we kind of want to do with it. So without further ado, let me go ahead and introduce myself. My name is Daniel Mejia. I am a junior at Chapman University studying psychology, minoring in biology, neuroscience, and history, all over the place. But it's a lot of good fun. And trying to be involved in a lot. But this is our show. We'll name our show in a few minutes once we kind of go it around. But I know Chris has to head off kind of soon, so we'll go ahead and start with him. This is Chris Berry. Go ahead and introduce yourself.
Yeah, and I think what we could even do, because there are going to be a lot of different people, as you'll come to find throughout the entire show. I mean, how many of us? Like 7 of us?
Roughly.
8 of us?
Maybe 8, too.
However much it is. So kind of adding on to what Daniel was saying, it's just what we see with this podcast, what we want to do is, share ideas that are worth spreading. Talk about the most important issues that we think society, number one, should be talking about, or talk about ways that we can improve ourselves in society around us, the world around us. So you'll get a lot of different perspectives from a lot of different people, which is cool. But I'm just a normal kid from my voice died right there.
He's a normal kid.
Okay.
I'm a normal kid from Massachusetts.
I'm a normal kid, originally from Southern California. Been lucky to travel around the world. I have a year left to go in university. Have a lot of big dreams, desires, goals of being able to change the world, help out in a lot of different stuff, and excited to just kind of chat a little bit more on the podcast about stuff that's important. So,
Chris, where do you go to school?
Yeah, I go to school over at Northeastern University in Boston. So I have another year there, and keeping it brief. That's a little bit about me.
That's awesome, Matt. And then we'll throw it over to Coob.
I'm Matt. Probably besides Coob, one of the most out there wild people. Judging as you can see with the sailor hat, I don't have one of those yet. I'm going to work on getting one. Kind of like Chris. My goal is to kind of help people see things from a different standpoint, help encourage, help, be a kind of backbone story for people that might be going through something or view like wanting to give up. My goal is to make them see that that's not what they should do, and there's a lot that you can do, whether it's because of something that has happened or cards that you're dealt. There's a difference, and once you have that mindset, and my goal is to share my experience and show how I've changed my mindset. And I am currently a student at IVC. I am planning to transfer to Chapman. Haven't figured out a major yet. I'm bouncing between 10 different things for some odd reason still. Can't figure it out, but that's who I am.
That's powerful.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And one thing, I know obviously you're going to be chatting about it a little bit more throughout the thing, but if you could just give them a background of like just you and what quickly some of the stuff you've had to go through in your life.
All right, here's a summary. Kids, listen up. Listen up. I'm paralyzed. I also go by DJ Wheels. That's a story for later on.
We'll talk about
DJ
that.
Wheels in the house.
Choir class, freshman.
Hey. All right, buddy. Go for it, man.
Me?
Yeah,
Yes,
you.
you sailor boy.
All right. My name's Daniel. I'm a third-year computer engineer with a minor in business. I wear this hat. I do own a boat. It is a 10-foot dinghy, and I got a 9.9 horsepower outboard. It's currently in my garage, but I could take it out. I don't know. I think I'm someone who has been I stretch myself out a lot, and I put myself in a lot of different places, and I like to do new things. So I think I do. Um, I think I have a broad range of experiences, a broad range of goal setting and goal failure, and stuff like that. Um, I don't know. I'm excited. I think everyone here brings different things to the table, um, and whatever the goal is, I think it's one that we can fight for, we can achieve, and I'm excited for this. So, cheers.
Definitely.
Beautiful.
I'm glad
Straight
you're here.
poetry.
So let's talk a little bit about the show and about the history and who's involved in it. So it's a big group, kind of like Chris prefaced earlier. It's we all are from Modern Day High School. Seems like forever ago now. We all met there. We're gonna have a lot of people on the show. All the people I consider co-hosts and co-founders with me. From Leah Weed to Saint Muro, who's our social media coordinator, Chad Gayton, a whole bunch of people that you guys are going to meet over the course of the show. So a little bit about our history. It actually started about a year ago under the name Around the World at Chapman Radio. We were a radio show doing international music. So we would do little song blocks. You remember that, Matt? About
Yes, sir.
French music, German music, whatever it might be. It was awesome. And we kind of transitioned that in the spring of 2020. We were W3 What We Want. And it was just a miscellaneous radio show where we kind of played whatever we wanted to do. Not the most creative name, but it was. I'll take the blame for that one. But it was fun, right? And we had a good time. This semester we had to do it from home, right, because of COVID, and so we were LFG Radio, and we kind of decided, you know what, we can take it to the next level. We can. You like the name, Coop?
Yeah.
We can take it to the next level. We learned how to use different programs. We learned how to, mics weren't that expensive. And we said, let's do it. Our kind of goal a year ago when we first started was to kind of make our own brand and to make our own show and have it be a way for us, our group, to get together. We met forever ago, almost 5-6 years ago, our freshman year or around that time. And we kind of built this group up. And what?
So wow, that's crazy, dude.
I know,
No,
right?
honestly, it's more like 6 or 7 years ago.
Right? 6 or 7.
We're 3 years in, and we met, dude. Yeah, 7 years ago.
That's crazy.
Wow.
And it's
so old.
it is a nice excuse to get together and keep a friendship going and kind of make something of it. So that's where we're headed. We will be running in tandem with Chapman Radio. So when our podcast is going to keep going. Whether we decide it to be twice a month or every week or whatever we want it to do, it will continue going. And then during each semester of Chapman, we're going to have our accompanying radio show. So we'll get that later, but that's a little bit of our history. We are, Chris, do you want to reveal the name of the show? We think we want to go with this name. Chris, I'll let you go.
Yeah, so the name that we're thinking is The Intelligent World. So the reason why we say this is we just want to
confetti being thrown here.
If you could see us right now, for those of you listening, we have like a crazy background effect going on.
Just us doing the wave. Like,
if you're watching on YouTube, we're not.
No, but regardless, we want to share stuff that is worth hearing, that the world should be listening to, and we believe that it's really important to bring a global mindset and different perspectives into the conversation. So that's where kind of the world aspect comes in. And we hope that just by having conversations like this amongst all of ourselves, that we'll be able to become more intelligent, make a bigger difference in the world, make it a better place. So,
yeah. Definitely.
Well said, with 30 seconds to spare.
Yeah. So, I mean, the goal of this, right, kind of started out as just, again, a way to continue our show and to continue our friendship and have an excuse to get together once a week or however often we do this thing. But I think it really has turned into a miscellaneous show, or this group can talk about a whole bunch of different topics, right? While we're discussing maybe something very prevalent in our society, maybe it's something controversial, maybe it's some philosophical something, or maybe it's just exploring what we do on a daily basis. we also kind of want to intertwine stuff from just talking about sports or just talking about movies. It's a good way where we're exploring a whole bunch of different topics, but at the end of the day, like Chris said, we're exploring things that we think are important and things that are expanding our mind, and to our listeners, hopefully can expand your view as well, and maybe just hear different perspectives on something.
Let me sum it up for the people that didn't understand that. There's going to be important bits. There's going to be relevant. Then there's going to be the irrelevant. Probably my area, but we're not going to focus on that.
And it's all going to be fun.
Yeah, the goal of the show is to have fun.
Exactly. So welcome back. Thanks for sticking with us after that short little 15-second break. I mean, we have to include some music in this thing. So Chris had to leave us, and he'll be back at the end of the show. We'll start talking about some cool stuff. But we have DJ Wheels and we have Coop. You're gonna have to settle on a DJ name if you want, or we can just call you Daniel if you want.
Call me Captain Dan.
Captain Dan. I like that. All right, Captain Dan and DJ Wheels here. So let's talk about
him as Sailor Dan.
Sailor
Dan.
Lieutenant Dan.
Lieutenant Dan.
Let's explore kind of how we met and how we think this endeavor, of the intelligent world is kind of going to go for us. So Matt, DJ Wheels,
sure.
you want to start?
I'll take it away for here.
Go for it.
So for those new, as you guys probably will hear eventually, we all came from the same high school. That'll be talked about later on. The way I met these boys is through freshman year. We all had to pick an elective. I decided to go with choir, not even knowing that these guys would select that as well. Kind of chose it just because I knew I had to pick something, and at the time that was kind of my mindset for it. Eventually it evolved, which we'll talk about in later shows. But literally first day I walk in, roll in actually, sorry, let me correct myself there. Yeah, because it's got to be grammarly correct there. Whatever. But, I go in there, and literally they are the first three people that I meet that I make friends with. I mean, the other classes I just was kind of trying to get a feel for, trying to understand where I go, trying to do that. Literally walk into this class, people are talking. I was afraid I'd be over talkative, so I kind of tried to stay quiet. Next thing I know, I'm bombarded by three people, and that's where the friendship started. So,
Freshman Kingsman. That's what we were called. The name has changed now, but we will always be Kingsman.
I'm gonna state that was the best Kingsman ever, and ever since downhill.
Yep.
Remember
the Kingsman.
What?
Remember the Kingsman.
Exactly.
Remember us.
All right, Captain Dan, take it away.
Yeah, we met in high school.
Thanks for your succinct addition.
Dude, it's so good. They're like every day. Okay, not every day, but going
every
on
other
in
day.
my life, every other day, pretty much. Going on in my life, I miss the choir program that we had,
right?
And like just the friends and the amazing directors and stuff, and just like the fun. And like the longer I go away from it, it's like at UCSD I did a choir class, and it was fun, but it was the intermediate one, and it was fun, but I was alone pretty much in it. All the other kids would not even try or sing. It's like I met a couple people, and like we'd sit by each other, but it's like the director was all right, It was weird.
So-
It's like I go in trying my best to lower my expectations as much as possible,
Hmm.
and then they still just never get reached, and it's like, um, but yeah, we all met in choir, and I think there's something, I think there's something of value, um, when in a friendship, you're still talking to them, years later when you never see them, and you still care about them, and like I'll still think about you guys, blah blah, like memes, the usual. But so I'm to kind of answer your original kind of question. It's like, what do you expect to get? I think I'm just excited to have a forum to be able to catch up with you guys on a weekly, bi-weekly, whenever it is,
Yeah.
basis, and see your beautiful faces.
Thank you.
I can't believe I just did that. I'm not doing that ever again.
Yeah, we never talk about this again. No.
Yeah, no, that's a statement that will be removed. Oh.
That's awesome, man. I think for your viewers out there, again, this kind of project started as a way to, like Daniel said, just to kind of hang out with each other and talk about stuff. But it's already grown to so much more. I mean, Matt has been with me since day one, back around the world, back in December or fall of 2019 when we first started this endeavor. And it was fun. It was just a way, we kind of just used it as a way to hang out. And that show was a little bit more structured. There was a theme, but I mean,
I
this
was
time
only
around,
there to test the boundaries
Yeah.
of how far I could push it.
but I mean, as Chris was kind of talking about earlier, and as we're going to keep talking about, this is not just a way to continue talking with each other. This is a way to explore a lot of different topics that we really care about. And I mean, at least for me, I agree with these guys. It's the fact that we met in choir, Kingsman, day one. And I think kind of adding to what Kub was saying, the reason why it's so special, and we'll have other people just kind of joining us, but the reason kind of this group has really lasted is because the amazing experiences that we kind of had, it formed us together. And I wouldn't call you guys my friends at all. I call you guys, brothers and stuff like that. This is kind of, wow, really? No,
Like, shame on you.
Call me
You know what?
friend.
I thought brother would be better than a friend, but
Yo, Cube, we're gonna start our own segment. And it's gonna be all about sailing and fishing. All right, that's what we're gonna do.
hey, that would be kind of fun for you guys, honestly.
Honestly, I can do that.
Right? But no, I mean, I like I said, I think this group has really gotten really close, and I think that's the main reason that we still talk, right, Coop? There might be times that we can't, it's just too busy or something like that, but we know we still have each other's back through thick and thin, whatever the case might be. So 7 years later, we're still together, and now we're doing a podcast / radio show, and we're gonna keep doing it. And when I graduate from Chapman and we're no longer doing it in tandem with Chapman, we're gonna continue doing this thing, hopefully, and we're gonna see where this goes. There's a big long road ahead for us, individually, and a big long road ahead for us with this show. So I feel good.
And one more thing, it's exciting because we used to be young and stupid,
And now we're older
now
and stupid.
we're just stupid.
Yeah, I agree on that one. Like,
That's a fact, actually.
I like that.
But yeah, I mean, I think there's a good point to transition now into, especially I know Matt, you kind of have to go soon, right?
I'm heading out.
You're heading out right now, so I think this is a perfect time for us to take our second
I'll see you
little
guys
break
out in
right
the
now.
outro. Alrighty.
We're gonna take our 15-second break right now, so we'll pause. Thanks very much for continuing to stick with us. That was our second little music break. I love how Captain Dan over here is laughing. So unfortunately, we had Matt head off, but Matt and Chris will be back in a few minutes when we get into our last segment of the show, and then definitely in future episodes. So we definitely talked about our history and introduced people introduce people who are not on the show, but we'll get into it. We introduce kind of what we want, our vision of the show, and we unveil our name, or at least the name that we think we're going to go with. If we end up changing the name, then we'll end up changing the name. It's the first show. We can experiment a little bit. But in this kind of vein of experimentation, let's go ahead and start delving into a little bit of topic. It'll be brief. But to end our show, let's talk about states of mind. And we'll allow Matt and Chris to jump back in a few minutes here. But Captain Dan here, let's talk about some stuff. What do you think about state of mind, and just kind of how, I guess, the generation now is kind of maybe dealing with some stuff of like mental roadblocks and stuff like that, of saying that we can't do things, and maybe along with that, maybe making ourselves the victim. Just kind of, I know it's maybe a little bit of deep stuff already, but I mean, this is what the show is about. So let's go for it. Let's dive into it a little bit, and then we'll let Matt and Chris jump back in.
Oh yeah. What's it called? At UCSD, I deal with a lot of students who go through a lot of mental issues. Whether that be from school, whether that be from pressure from parents, a lot of them is pressure from society. There's not very many partiers, so that's kind of, I guess less social pressure and less like drug related. I don't know. Anyway, and we have a lot of like suicides and stuff on campus.
Really?
They'll always cover it up. They'll always like, block off the section or stuff like that, and make sure no one knows about it, just because they don't want, that to be on the news for the school. It's not like a daily thing, but it does happen. And just knowing my, fellow peers, a lot of people, are extremely stressed and are in extremely horrible states of mind. And I think one thing, it's kind of, there's a lot of different ways you could word it, a lot of different ways, aspects you could look at. But I think one thing is just like your expectation, and your, kind of goals. If I'm breaking it down kind of small, and I think a lot of people, it's like, for example, it's like you'll go into school, and you'll be stressed about classes and stuff like that. You want to get good grades, you're doing all this work, staying up late nights, you're slowly spiraling into more and more of a worse situation. But the thing is, you do it for a class that, okay, you're gonna end with a B minus in, or no, sorry, you're gonna end with a B plus in. Okay, you need a C minus to pass and to get your degree. No one's gonna give a shit that you got a B plus in this class. Maybe, cumulatively, it'll matter because your GPA and stuff like that. But also, no one will care after your first job.
Right.
You dress up, you get made fun of, let's say, for walking around, in a certain outfit. You wore giant sunglasses, everyone's making fun of you. No one's gonna remember it. I think there's kind of, the common theme is, I think people put too much weight on their shoulders of kind of not living their lives, and like following the current constructs. Get good grade, or people our age at least. It's like, get good grades, blah blah blah, do this, do that, and on top of just, people living with social media, where everyone wants to die anyway, and everyone hates themselves anyway.
Yeah.
And you look at, these perfect male Roman gods, and then you see these perfect female beauties. And if I'm a guy, and it's like, why don't I look like that? If you're a girl, it's like, why don't I look like that? I want to look like that. And then you don't, and you're like, well, shit.
Yeah.
And that's on top of everything. I think the state of mind of the younger generation, is, or it's one with a lot of troubles. And I'm not, saying older people, different generations didn't have the struggles they did. But I think with currently, it's kind of like, with the internet, you are able to explore more. People are able to talk to you, make fun of you. You're able to see different things. And I think it's leading. I think something that people need to realize is, kind of like, who cares?
Mm-hmm.
Like, like, let's just, do what you think is best in your life, and like move on, and just, who cares if you failed? That's just, everyone has to fail.
Right.
You learn
Definitely.
from that. Who care? Like, I don't know. It's kind of rough. Um, you know,
I see what you're trying to say. We got to focus on ourselves a bit more and stop focusing on what other people think about us. Think about us, and I think that raises a really interesting point. I know, I kind of have our ideas spreadsheet here, and I know that we're gonna spend a good amount of a show, or maybe a whole show later on, on social media and the effects. So I think that's a great topic, and I'm sure that this topic will probably come up later again tonight in the show. But that raises a lot of good points, right? And I think we kind of get into our mindset of looking at what other people do, or we kind of internalize it, right? Let's say I have, let's talk about, like just my weight or something like that, right? And then I kind of see all these things, right? Like you were saying, and I internalize that, and now I'm kind of putting a mental roadblock, and I'm saying, oh, I can't do this or I can't do that, and that's not the way we kind of should be living, right? And I think you'll agree with me on that. We need to kind of reform the way we're thinking. And I think that's such an important issue, because I think, especially in these younger generations, and people can harp on us, right? Oh, you're older now. What do you know? But, I think that a lot of the younger generations, and it's prevalent in our generation as well, that we kind of just are comparing ourselves to others so much, whether it be on social media or not. It's just kind of the zeitgeist now, where we're kind of internalizing things and judging ourselves and other people, and making stuff a status quo when it doesn't need to be, and making very trivial things so important. And that, just kind of ruins the way we live, and we kind of should stop doing that, and kind of be more flexible, and more forgiving with ourselves, and more understanding of, I guess, the world around us as well. So
yeah, it's crazy.
Right?
People, yeah. I always forget, or one thing I guess it's with everyone. You think you're the center of the world,
Right.
the center of everything. Makes sense. But there's, 8 billion other people. There's 350 million in the United States. There's 30,000 that go to my school.
Mm-hmm.
There's, I don't know, in my neighborhood, thousands.
Mm-hmm.
It's crazy. Like, I just can't imagine what, I've surrounded myself with people who are, strong, and I'm not saying others aren't, but, people who, are strong and are able to, and mainly don't give fucks. And I just wonder what, like, even my community, what it's like, because I don't know.
Right. I think, and I bet that's something we'll talk about a little bit later too, but, just in this age of globalization, in this age of, so much is out there, we kind of tend to lose scope sometimes. Either we see ourselves as, little fish in this great big world, or the opposite, where we kind of think that we're the biggest thing in this small world. So that's something that we need to navigate as well, right? Different kind of thought process of seeing that. And I think that's, you bring up a great point, is really just to kind of think about others, but not losing sight of where we are. And I think we tend to do that a lot. So it's great stuff.
Thank you.
That's great stuff. We're going to take another quick break here, and then we'll be back with Matt, Chris, and we'll talk about some great stuff. So we'll be back in a sec. Thanks.
Vibe with me, y'all. Ride with me, y'all. Let's take a ride.
Perfect. No, I 100% agree with that. I mean, when you talk about, obviously, there are people, like you were saying, with like a physical handicap. The sad part to me too is that on top of that, I can't give a percentage because I'm just picking a number out of the air, but majority of the population has a mental handicap is the problem.
You're right.
And I don't mean mentally like
no, ADHD, anxiety, all of that counts.
Yeah, and that's the problem too, because like ADHD, I mean, absolutely, it's something that a lot of people struggle with.
I have it. I can tell you I struggle.
But the point I want to get to is I feel that people limit themselves. Like, it wouldn't surprise me if I have ADHD. If you're really putting me on a scale, dude, I'm always boom, 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 everywhere. But the thing is like, how do you understand how to use it correctly?
Yeah,
I'd never consider myself ADHD, you know, but if you're like, put me through a test, yeah, I might end up with it, but.
Well, I think, just to cut in, Matt. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you
No,
off.
you're good.
But
You're
I
good,
think
go.
I think something that's interesting when you say that, Chris, is that, and it goes back with, there's a stigma on all the, all the just mental illness and even things that we don't really consider mental illness at times, right?
Yeah.
But like you said, just mental blocks. We kind of have so much stigma on it that it's bad all the time, and so we actually limit ourselves, like you were saying. And I think it's super interesting because I, as a someone that really adheres to like the behavioral field of psychology, it's what I really like about it and why I adhere to it is it's not talking about, oh, you have depression, oh, you have ADHD, and that's how you are. That's not what it is.
No.
And it really is, okay, the hand I got dealt is I get a little bit too emotional, I get a little too sad, or you know what, I can't focus that much. I have a lot of energy. But you know what, that's not a bad thing. I have to learn how to deal with that, right? Like you were saying, but make it into a positive. I have a lot of energy. So what am I going to do with that? I'm going to exercise more. I'm going to put effort into a lot of different things and kind of make myself better. Kind of like what you do, right? Let's say you have ADHD or not, but that's something that I really admire about you, or just with depression, learning to see that life has to be looked at in a certain way, in a different way, and making it into a positive. Sure, I'm more emotional, but that means I might be a little bit more in touch with how I'm feeling, with what the world has kind of dealt me and how I'm going to approach that. So I think that would be something really cool to talk more about later on too.
Well, it's easier just to sit back and say, it's just the way I am. I can't do anything about it.
Yeah, to fall in line.
Yeah, exactly. Because it's you making an excuse. For
Right.
Obviously, there are some things I'm not going to say, whatever it is, like, excuse me. No. I think you understand what I'm saying. It's a lot of times it's the mental aspect of believing that you can't do something,
right,
or that you're handicapped because of this or that, and that just that's what hurts me, you know. Because
I think an example that we could use for this is use me for this example. Physically, I am paralyzed. I'm not going to be able to go out and dig trenches or go build a house and get on top of the roof or whatever. But younger, even before you guys knew me, when I was first paralyzed, I struggled with remembering that there are things that I can do. And then I started viewing everything as can't do this, can't do that, blah, blah, blah. Making it, like you said, Chris, just making an excuse to find a way to, to me, it didn't feel like, an excuse, but to me, it was, trying to justify the reason why I was saying I could do it, which is the definition of an excuse. Now looking back, going, okay, that was definitely an excuse. But the real thing is realizing that an excuse is BS. You're doing that to not try. What's the problem? I think a thing that we want to eventually cover is a lot of people don't try to succeed. They have this aspect or thought of the world expects this from you, and that's how it has to be. If you don't have that, it doesn't work. That's not the case. People that have that have put the effort in to achieve that. It revolves around the effort behind it. So that's kind of, a thing I hope that we discuss and talk about, because I see it, like we were saying, whether it's physical or mental, a lot of people, especially this generation, you see them, not because of COVID or whatever, but you see them staying at home or wanting to find the easiest job that pays the most, whether, or when they're our age and they work at like a store or cashier or whatever it is. And then they end up falling for that, and they end up, saying, okay, this is good enough. I think a lot of people are doing that, and it shouldn't be that way. It should be, okay, I did this. I need to challenge myself. give myself goals so I can feel like I have a sense of achievement, if that makes sense.
Dude, you just led into so many introductions. I could take like 5 ways right now. I mean,
Take it away. Take it away, baby. Take it away.
I saw the gears turning.
Yeah, I could see the smoke coming out. I'm like, oh, he's thinking now.
No, but I don't want to transition it like too off, because I want to stay on this subject that you were saying. It's, in my opinion, as I said before, it's easier for people to give themselves an out. I can't do X because of Y, and that's just the way it is. But I mean, it's what it really, like you just said, it's an excuse that just allows you to feel good about yourself for not doing it. I mean, my ideology is you could literally do anything you set your mind to, whatever it is. And the problem is people don't necessarily think that way too. You know, it's easier to say, it is what it is. I can't change it. Done.
Let me ask you guys this. Do you guys think that happiness is achieved by putting in effort, or does it come just naturally?
You know, I think with that question, I think there's a little bit of both, right?
Yeah.
At least for me personally. Because yes, you go out and you make your own happiness, and you find it by putting in effort, by finding, you know, things that you enjoy, by finding niches that you belong to. But, you know, life is also unpredictable. So, you know, there's also times when things are going to go your way, right? And that might be a form of happiness. So I think putting in effort is tremendously important. And I think, you know, kind of going on, I don't want to segue it away, but I think I really like that you brought up, and Chris, you too, that we really do have to put in the effort. And I think that this generation at times is kind of lazy. You know, we can kind of even ourselves, we can kind of blame ourselves too, where we just kind of sit back a little bit, and it's, we can't do that. You know, we really have to fight for what we want and go out and really believe in ourselves. I think, you know, we're from a young age, we're told you can do whatever you want to, and then we kind of get disillusioned really quickly. And again, that's a mental roadblock, right? We've talked about this a lot, Chris. It's a mental roadblock. We can't do that. We can't. And it's not, again, that might not be the best thing I can say, right? I shouldn't say we can't. What I should say is we need to overcome that way of thinking and continue to believe in ourselves, and continue to believe that, yeah, anything that I do want to do, I can do. And I think that's really important. So I'll give it back to you, Chris.
No, I agree. And I think that one thing I see, especially, I mean, yeah, we're all young, so it's not like, oh, over the past 10 years out of 50. No, but I've just over the past couple of years, I see people getting more of this victim role, this victimization.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
This has happened against me. Oh my, I've been wrong done and this and that. And I mean, yes, I'm not saying that people haven't had terrible things happen against them, or they were maybe dealt a harder hand than others. But regardless, I mean, do we just want to continue sitting here saying, oh, poor me, poor that, like, or just actually take action? And I mean, I know I've talked to you, Daniel, about this. I don't know if I've talked with you, Matt, as much about this. When I tore my ACL, it was like devastating absolutely devastating. Like,
are we talking when you did it back in high school?
Back in high school.
Yeah. Remember that? Yeah. I noticed a change of your like mentality. I remember I noticed it because you went from like,
really?
I mean, I never wanted to bring it up, but I mean, I noticed it. I mean, I knew how big soccer was to you. I mean, I knew how big it was to you. And I remember seeing us in the back of class, and then, you know, before when you were always playing soccer, let me just put this out there. This guy was the wackiest guy in class. You would see him like literally skipping it freshman year. He was literally hopscotching across the room, doing the weirdest things. And it was the funniest thing. And then when you tore your ACL eventually, I remember it was like, I noticed it. You had to calm down a little bit. And I was like, this is a different Chris, you know? And you see the differences, and you're like, something was taken away from you. And you learned how to make the changes to that. And that's what I noticed about you when that happened. So obviously I want you to continue, because I'm sorry that I interrupted you on that. But
no, I don't apologize for it. I really enjoyed, I didn't realize that, because internally that is 100% what was going on. Obviously physically I wasn't jumping around anymore.
Not anymore.
But just mentally there was like something wrong. And I mean, I'm lucky that yes, of course, the ACL was a serious injury, but in the grand scheme of things, it's nothing. So I was very lucky I was able to learn this lesson from such a and I guess say insignificant lesson / injury. But to me, up until that point in my life, it was my dream to become a professional soccer player. Like, I mean, like I played soccer basically every single day of the week. If I wasn't watching soccer, I was playing soccer. If I wasn't playing, I was talking. If I wasn't doing any of those two, I was playing video games on soccer. Like whatever it is, everything was soccer. Okay. I mean, like 11 years old, I went to Italy to go to a soccer camp. Like, and ever since I'm obsessed, you know? So for me, it just left this gigantic gap in my life that and tying this all together, I just created this victim of myself. And for me, it was more of a faith aspect of, God, why'd you allow this to happen to me? I've done so many good things, and I do what you want. Regardless of whether you're faith-filled or not, I mean, it's just that victimization mindset. Oh, this has happened to me. Like, why? This is terrible. I can't control. And then for me, to keep it shorter, the story, there's just one point where it just flipped. There's one instant, one situation where everything changed in my mind, where I realized I was playing myself the victim. It's probably a good like 3 or 4 months where it was like that. And then I finally changed. I'm like, holy shit. Like, am I just going to continue sitting in my room feeling bad for myself because what happened? Or am I actually going to like make something out of this? And to me, like that's been a life-changing experience. And that's the hard part, because I've been lucky to have this lesson in my life, but so many people haven't had this revelation and understanding. Like when you play the victim, you trap yourself for the rest of your life.
They're still stuck playing the victim. They believe, they fall so, and I feel very passionate about this. They fall basically being prey, and basically they start making the excuses of they're the victim to convince others, but then what they end up doing is they convince themselves. And that ruins self-esteem, it ruins confidence, it ruins drive, passion, you name it. It takes a toll. I mean, it's not inconsequential. The more, it makes you, I view it as, if you don't, this is me going back to the effort part, if you don't put the effort in and want to be happy, you're going to miss out on a lot of experiences. I mean, the easiest thing I could think of that comes to this, we have all been there when it's very hard to ask a girl out or whatever it is, but we're all happier at the end of the day once we're like, screw it, let's just get it over with. Let's just do it. And you, like Daniel, like you said, you don't know where life's going to go. That's the point of life. It's going to go left or right. You don't know if she'll say yes or no. I mean, and that's why you should not want to play the victim. Is you should want to find out for yourself, where can I go with this? What can I, and Chris, you actually brought this up, and this is a very good point that I also believe in. Take it to the next level and find out how you can use it to your advantage, rather than sitting, dwelling, and judging yourself based upon it. Don't focus on it and make that the center of your reality or your world. Like, sure, you have ADHD or whatever we were talking about earlier. Use it to your advantage. Play it as one of your strengths. People with ADHD, they're hyper, they're talkative, they are very good at communicating. Yes, we bounce from one subject to another within 20 or even 5 seconds. It looks like we're rapping Rap God from Eminem, and we're just bouncing one after another. But use that ability, learn how to tame it, and then look, you basically are set for a communication major. I mean, you don't have to view it as a disability. You can use it as a strength, and I think that's what a lot of people do today. And unfortunately, I only see it rising as where I would like to see it decrease. Because I feel like when you play the victim, you look for someone to blame it on, rather than going, okay, even though it's not my fault, it is my responsibility to use it to the best of my ability. So,
Yeah, no, definitely. I just want to chime in here really quick, because I think, one, this is an amazing topic that we're talking about, but I think we definitely have to just hone in on it and almost like save a show where we're just exploring this topic. And the reason why is I think this brings up a prime example of victimization and empowerment. And that's something where if you want to look, and it's prevalent in every facet of society, and especially now. We've been using it throughout this, 20 minutes. We've been talking about emotional and in life. But you can talk about it politically, in society, in a whole bunch of I know I'm being a little repetitive, but on a whole bunch of different facets of society. And I think the reason why we have, and I think we should talk about it, especially, looking at our idea spreadsheet, why we should maybe really delve into this topic at a later date is because, and I just want to kind of say beforehand for our viewers and listeners here is we in our entire group are very diverse, different races, different ethnicities, very different
backgrounds,
family backgrounds, exactly, economic backgrounds, and political spectrums as well. So what makes this group so great is that we can all listen to each other, even if we don't agree with each other at sometimes, right? And still, at the end of the day, be fine with each other and love each other and talk and be able to talk about this. This is so important. And I think, especially right now, victimization and empowerment and kind of how that's kind of taking form is something at least I'm really passionate about. I know Chris is too. Matt, we've talked about this as well. 3 of us here tonight are really passionate about the subject, especially in this political climate that we're in. We can talk about it we won't talk about it tonight, but we can talk about it later on with, maybe some controversial topics, but, really for me, it's race, and stuff like that is something that I would love to discuss later on too. But that's just me. But I definitely think that would be really cool to talk about.
Do you guys feel, let me ask you this, and then this is just a little segue of that. Just that way, this is a brainstorm of what we could also talk about when we bring that up. Do you feel like each generation has its different thing? Like right now it's race, before it was economic income, then it was background, then it was capability, yada, yada, yada. Do you guys feel like that is still a present thing in today's society?
I mean, so I know, Chris, sorry, just really quick. I think from a historical background, right, if I'm going to analyze history, I'm not sure if there's an epoch, right, where there's a certain thing.
No, there's one more,
Right. But I see what you're saying. But I think we've kind of come into this really interesting point, and I kind of noticed it about 2 years ago. We've kind of hit this really interesting point in human history where it seems like everything has kind of caught up with us at the same time. I don't know if you guys agree, but and again, it might, from a historiography standpoint, gotta make sure I pronounce that right? The study of history, it's really interesting because we're learning about history, or we're seeing history from the point of the majority. So, right, when we're talking about socioeconomic backgrounds and or socioeconomic as the most prevalent topic, we're talking about maybe like the 70s, 80s, 90s, right? That's kind of what the epoch you were talking about, Matt. And
I mean that you can go by centuries, whatever it is.
Right. But I think that was super prevalent, right, at the time, at least the political climate at the time that I'm kind of envisioning. That's kind of bled through and continued. And before that, it was a little bit less. I mean, the next time would probably be the Industrial Revolution in the early 1800s, and then the early 1900s. But I think we're kind of seeing that, and everything's kind of coming and clustering now at this time, and it's kind of just an explosion of all these kind of topics and issues. So I don't know what, Chris, you want to.
Why do you believe that's the case?
The reason I believe that's the case is again, I didn't actually finish my point, so thank you for letting me do that. As again, in a historiography standpoint, a historiography view, we usually tell the story of history from a point of the majority. So again, if I'm talking about 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, let's say, socioeconomic and that issue, really we were looking at white America. I'm just gonna say it, that because that was the most prevalent view. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that. I'm not. I'm just saying that was the majority view. Now we're kind of seeing as more diverse across the globe that there's all these issues that are kind of coming up at the same time, and that's why we're seeing a lot of race issues, socioeconomic issues, and kind of thing. And it's just a cluster of all these kind of issues catching up with us, and that's what I've kind of noticed. That's why I think that's happening, right? I think that before, there were these issues, maybe there were like waves of and peaks of these kind of issues coming up. I think now, and again, I think the reason is because of the more diversity and more ability to connect and communicate across the globe, that all these kind of issues are coming up. And I don't think it's necessarily a bad thing. I think that's, again, looking at the idea spreadsheet, we're hitting a lot of those topics in the future. Looking at all these issues that are really have caught up with us are happening right now, and are a result of long time, systematic issues. Not inherent in American culture, but just kind of all over the world, and it's catching up with us. So I think that's kind of something interesting to explore. Does that make more sense, Chris? Did I explain myself well?
No, absolutely.
Okay.
And I think to even take it a step further, for me, I believe that, the globalization with, just travel becoming easier. I also think in regards to
Here we go.
We both saw it. We saw it.
I can see the look upon your face, all the questions you're asking. I can see the look upon your face, all this time is moving past me. Clouds roll in, circle the sky, and turns the sea to gray. Clouds roll in, circle the sky, the rain comes out to play.
Okay.
So Chris, actually, I know you're going to continue, and I actually had a quick question for you. Do you actually, and when you continue this, I hope that you can actually answer this question while you're doing this. I wanted to know if you actually see any of the, like while you were in Italy and while you were abroad, did you actually see any of this during your time doing all that?
What do you mean? See what?
With the globalization and seeing the difference, and whether it's victimization or whatever, did you see aspects of that everywhere?
So me, and by the way, I've only scraped the surface of, being able to travel around the world and see different perspectives. But it just opened my eyes. I mean, I've been very lucky. I've been able to live in a couple of different places. I've been able Rome for a more long extended period, Peru for a little bit, and then also different parts of the US. But no matter where you go, these problems that we're talking about are prevalent everywhere, and I think tying it back to the point of what I was saying before Daniel hopped in, was just with globalization, it's easier to travel all around the world, and even more expedited or made worse or better, however you perceive it, with social media. It's completely changed everything. I mean, a person that is in rural Russia over in the Siberia area can now connect with somebody in Southern California or in the rainforest of Brazil. So when we're talking about cultures meshing, I mean, as Daniel said, we're at an unprecedented time in history, in my opinion. It's like, and this is the hard part. I think that as a society, we haven't fully yet grasped everything that social media can do, whether it be positive or negative. I think we're still trying to figure it out, So, I mean, I know we're opening a lot of different can of worms here, but tying it back to all the way to the very beginning where we talked about, the victimization and all that, I think that mindset a lot of people have taken on, and it's just being spread throughout with social media, and other people being able to do that. So
I agree.
I could not agree more.
So again, thanks very much for sticking with us. We're ending our first show here. You can see that it's just Coob, Sailor Dan, and me here now to end the show. So Daniel squared, I guess you can call it. But to end our first show, I just want to say thank you so much for giving us a listen, giving us a view if you're watching it on YouTube. There's a goofy, just fun-loving group of people that you're gonna meet a lot more of, and we're just here to have fun and just talk about different things that we really treasure. So I hope that you'll stick with us. Stick with us and learn a little bit more. Maybe enhance your worldview, or as maybe just kind of hear something from one of our different perspectives. So, any closing thoughts, Scoob?
Cheers.
Cheers. I love it. So, from all of us here at the Intelligent World, keep dreaming, keep doing. And we'll see you next time. It's an experiment.
Yeah.
We're gonna come up with something better next time. You know what? I'll end with this. I am establishing an undergraduate journal at Chapman University, and our little slogan that I came up with is oh crap, let me find it. Give me a second.
You don't even know it.
I gotta find it. Give me 2 seconds. Give me 2 seconds.
Tina, you fat lord, come get some dinner.
Oh, here it is. Here it is. Creativity, hard work, and knowledge makes for a better today and a brighter tomorrow. Thanks for tuning in. That's the show.
Let's go.
The music used for the intros and outros of this podcast is
Agora by Malaventura, taken from Pixabay. We also used songs for our mid-show songs, which were
College Rock by Man Bites Dog from freemusicarchive.org,
Rising Up by Aider41, taken from Pixabay.
Can I Live by SK by freemusicarchive.org, and Never Knew Me at All by Pachyderm by freemusicarchive.org.
And finally, we use Quirquincho by Milton Arias, taken from freemusicarchive.org. Thank you for listening. This was The Intelligent World.